Hey guys, it's Carey Pena. Thank you so much for joining us today. And in studio with us, Alisa Glutz, the creator of Color My Credit. Alisa, how are you?
Hello, beautiful Carey.
You have a really cool story to share. We're going to talk about how you have dedicated yourself to helping people understand and clean up their credit in just a minute. But first, I want to talk a little bit about your backstory because you have a really interesting journey as to how you got to where you are today. You were living in LA. You were an executive for HBO and a producer for ABC's Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher. So you were in the scene.
Oh, yes.
And what happened next?
Wow. So I graduated from Arizona State University in '99. I worked at the Tempe Improv during college. I knew I loved stand-up comedy. I didn't want to be a stand-up comedy, but I knew how to laugh. So I was like, I could maybe find a job that would pay me to laugh. So off to LA with my wishes and dreams, and it just things just open up as they usually do when you're on this right path. So, anyways, I started working for the guy who booked the chain of the Improvs. He wanted to start a management company. You just start building kind of this comedy circle of network, and I moved over to HBO to help with the U.S. Comedy Arts Festival, and then over to Politically Incorrect, and I was kind of a comedy expert at that time.
You built up a really impressive resume at a young age. Were you kind of fearless when you went to LA?
Yeah, my mom always taught me, like, go find a job that, go do everything so you can figure out what it is you don't want to do.
Yeah, I like that.
And I always looked at work as, what do I want to go do? I want to go work at Wet Seal or something like that, where I was like, you're going to pay me too? So I always kind of had that in the back of my head.
By the way, Wet Seal, yes.
I waited for a year, like, can I put my application in now? But so every job I had, I worked at Channel 8, I always kind of went after that job that I was like, people do that? Like, I want to try that, So that's always kind of been the drive. But at that time, I was dating someone who I'd met here, and he wanted to come back to Arizona and be close to family, get married, start family, have kids, and I was like, let's go for the white picket fence and go back and go back to Arizona and start that. I didn't know what I was going to do here.
Did people think you were crazy when you left LA, seeing as that you had so much going on there?
My mother was crying. She's like, my house in Malibu is done. I'm not going to the Oscars ever, But no, it was not exactly the welcoming. Some friends were excited for me to come back. They're like, oh, darn it. But no, it was good. And I had 2 beautiful babies. I had gone through, that's a whole nother story, but I went through a tumor. I went through radiation. I went through September 11th in LA. My husband had lost his previous girlfriend to cancer too. So there was a lot going on.
A lot of life experiences at a young age.
Yeah, 22 at that point.
You recently went through a divorce.
Right.
And the interesting part of what has happened since is that you have really found this new chapter in your life.
Yeah.
And how did the credit part of this equation come to life?
Well, he's an awesome person. I won't even say anything negative because we have 2 awesome, amazing children from it. But we've been together 16, almost 17 years. Kind of fell apart, and I ended up moving out of the home in October. The funny thing is in the end of January, really kind of going through I've always been a pretty positive, strong, go-getter. But I was broken. I was just broken down. And I remember sitting in my church parking lot going, you gotta be kidding. Like, how am I at this point in my life? I'm almost 39, and I didn't ever want to be divorced, and I could not do anything to make it work. And I'm like, I need to just start surrounding myself with solid women that I can be empowered by, that I can empower, that I can, really kind of the Viktor Frankl method of turning yourself away from your inner self and start serving others. And so I'm like, I'm going to start a secret Facebook group. And on the whim, I'm like, I'll just call it Claxy Women Club, and it'll just be women that are sophisticated and professional business women who are empowered, that want to empower others, that want to collaborate, they want to create, they want to do some inspiring things together.
So let me stop you there for a second. Did you sort of have that moment where you realized that you needed to stop yourself from falling into a negative space, and you kind of put the brakes on?
I needed to grow more. I was like going, okay, it's getting stale. So I moved out, and here I'm at, and what's this next step? And knowing that there's got to be some other women that are going through this, that have been through this, and so started this little secret group, and I'm like, no one's gonna find us. The men can't find us, And if you know someone who, I wasn't even thinking about it when I wrote the little opening intro, but
it wasn't an angry divorce group. It was a positive.
Jerry Maguire, but I'm like, I'll just start it with 100 women. They can add women that they think are of that caliber that they, and we'll see what happens. And so I did that, and within a couple months there's about 2,600 women right now in there.
What has this done for you over the last 6 months?
There's so many times when you think about doing something from a selfless place of helping others and empowering others, and how, the old saying of just, like, you just can't help, but that light getting on you. I was really trying to find my way through a lot of darkness. I use color, for understanding credit reports and kind of breaking down this credit report. But I kept kind of floating into this Wizard of Oz, place through it all of her being in this black and white world, and the house going up, and I'm being a mortgage banker for 14 years. I kind of related to the whole house and the housing crisis and everything. And then the house stops and lands, and she opens the door and walks out, and it's just, it's Technicolor, it's color.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I just thought, and Glenda, the Good Witch says, you knew this all along. You just needed to learn this for yourself, And that's been such a motivator for me. Like, you don't need to go, people can start over. They don't need to go pay all this money for credit repair and all these other ways that people have taught them that's what you do. It's much more simple than you think.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about right now is, so as you were repairing your life, and putting the pieces back together and figuring out what's next, which a lot of people have to go through. Any type of major change like that, a divorce, a death, anything that's
starting over.
Or we're talking about the housing industry, people who so many people tragically lost their homes.
Oh, yeah.
And you literally had to start all over.
Oh, yeah.
So you were rebuilding. At the same time, you came up with this idea for Color My Credit.
Right.
And tell me about that and what it is.
Well, there's been a lot of different little things through the years. I've been in this business since 2002. 2003 was like the largest year for loan origination. So I came into the market at the right time. Stand-up was fading out, housing was fading in, and I just launched into it. And so in 2003, that was the first year we all got to see our credit reports, but we didn't need them. If we had a pulse, we were going to get a house, and so we just moved forward, going, on credit education for another day because I don't need it.
Right.
Then the housing housing crisis happened, and right around that 2007 timeframe is when the banks, when the insurance companies, when everybody started going, how can we make a little money off this ignorance going on in the country? If they don't know how to get their score up to 760, and they don't put 20% down on a house, then they're going to get a little worse rate. And then everybody started jumping in on that. Where if your credit score, is in the 620s right now, you're paying 3 times as much as somebody who had just had a DUI on your insurance. And so there were all these little secret ways that started kind of coming out of going, this is how we can monetize, make some money off this. So
that was bothering you. You saw that from the inside. You were mainly a mortgage broker.
I was a mortgage broker until 2007. Then every brokers kind of started merging out. I'm a mortgage banker now.
Okay,
we kind of work the same way.
So you know the way the industry works.
And thousands of people I've helped over the last 14 years get into homes, and every one of them looking at credit reports, going, "Wow, if they just paid that debt down $40."
Because a bad credit score really holds a lot of people hostage.
The one thing I love about it, I'm a big proponent, I'm a big fighter for the underdog. And the best part about credit is you can be right now working at Taco Bell and making minimum wage and have a better credit score than Bill Gates.
So what do people need to do?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think is the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to their credit?
Thinking that whatever happened in their past is there to stay. Here's the best part about credit and coloring. Yes, I'm coloring, and yes, it's nice that the country has made it to where coloring books are a little bit more accepted as an adult activity for stressless activity. But there's a method. I actually
there's a trend right now. It's like a big trend, right? I see people posting about how they love coloring.
Yeah, that was so nice. I'm like, thank you. Thanks for teaching people that it's okay. And then I add in the education part.
Right.
My whole thought was, gosh, what was the first thing I remember learning? Coloring. And there was kind of being really young, 5, 6 years old. I remember thinking, where did we go? Like, I graduated 20 years ago, and when I left high school, there were no programs, nothing to say, this is how you build a financial legacy. This is how you need to know about budgeting and credit and taxes and all this paper documents that are going to be
So now you do a lot of teaching and lecturing and helping and advocacy. So what specifically does Color My Credit do?
Okay.
If I sign on with you, what do I learn and how does it work?
First of all, it's free. It's getting them prepared for whatever goal it is they want, but here's the coloring part. Your credit report is overwhelming and complicated, and it's 7 to 10 years of content. Sometimes people walk in, they have a 140-page credit report, and I'm like, wow. And it's not bad. That's just the way it is because it's 7 to 10 years of information. Your credit score, what people don't realize, that credit score is based on the last 24 months of reported information. So looking through your credit report and identifying what dates it was opened, what was the last activity on the account, and when that creditor last reported this information to the 3 credit bureaus, you can black out 80% of the credit report. With a black crayon, you can go, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. And that's what I'm getting them down to is it ends up taking a 140-page credit report. We're down to 2 pages, 6 accounts that have reported in the last 24 months, and I color those accounts based on what they need to do. So if the credit card balance is showing more than 20% of what the limit is, their score could be affected by 100 points. So I color it red. Hey, alert, get that credit card paid down, or call them and find out what day of the month they report your balance so you can pay before it. That's the biggest problem. Number one thing I can give you, and I hope you hear this from me because this is the most important thing. Here's your thing. Go home and get your credit card statement out and look at the balance, and then look at this little thing called the statement closing date. Okay? The balance that comes to you in the mail, that's the amount they've reported to the credit bureau. So people think it's the amount they pay. Well, I pay my credit card off in full every month. We don't care. It's about how much you owe that day. Okay, so when the credit card statement comes, you take that balance, divided by whatever the limit is. It's a $1,000 limit. And the balance says $800. You're going to pay it off in full. Who cares? Because they reported an $800 balance on a $1,000 limit. And if it's more than 20% of that limit, which we know it is, that's 80% of the limit, your score's 100 points lower. I don't care if you've never made a late payment in your life. If you don't know this trick, you could be not getting credit for paying this off in full every month. So they move their payment up one week to right before the end of the closing date, and they make their payment then, and that's the amount they report.
Well, you really don't hear anyone talking about that.
Nobody knows that.
And so what about people think a 30-day late payment is not that big of a deal, and you say it's a huge deal.
It just ruined somebody who was going to buy $1 million home, a doctor. He got a 30-day late on a GMAC truck, right? 30-day late, dropped his score 140 points. When you want to buy a house, a jumbo, anything over $417,000, you got to have 680, 700 credit score. So you paying your bills on time every month. You get 30-day late, 140-point drop in your credit. With him, I got on the phone with the creditor, and he called and said, I've never been late in my life. Can I get a goodwill removal of this 30-day late? They did it. They gave him a letter saying it was going to be deleted. I turned it in for a rescore with my bank, and 3 days later, 140 points increase in the credit score, and it saves them almost $800 a month in the payment.
What is it like for you finding this new place in your life at the same time empowering people to find financial freedom?
Well, with the Claxi Club that we did and with all consumers, I don't just speak with women. I want to start a movement. I mean, I'm very passionate about the fact, like, let's take back our money, okay? Back then, we didn't need to know this information, but you can learn this for free. Don't go pay a credit repair company. Talk to me first. I'll tell you whether or not you need to go, take it on to another level. But I'd say 80 to 90% of the people that come to me, they're ready to go, or they're within 3 days of ready to go. Because it's been almost 7 years now since the height of the foreclosures in this country. So right now, there's only a quarter of the people that are eligible to buy again. The foreclosures time frame is past, the bankruptcy time, they're eligible to buy again, and they're not. 3/4 of the people that lost their home are not back in the market, and the reason why is because they don't think they can. It's a credit thing.
Is it a good move financially to buy a home if you can afford it?
Absolutely. In my opinion, I don't know, my grandparents are 80, 90 years old, and that's a long lifespan, they said, except for a few years in here. It's been the best, real estate's been the best investment they've ever made.
And I've read, we just have a few minutes left, but I've read some of what you have on your site. And just for people who are watching and listening, what's your site so they can check you out?
It's just colormycredit.com, or you can, connect with me on Facebook. Yeah.
So I read that you have helped some people who have come out of homelessness.
Oh, yeah.
So really extreme stories where you
Those
go
are my
in.
favorite.
and how does that make you feel?
I mean, I can't even tell you. I've made a lot of money in this business. I've had a lot of success. We started with Politically Incorrect, a lot of awesome success that people think is great. And there is something missing. And when you have a significant impact on people's life and teaching agents how to help clients get into homes again, we were there to watch them lose it. Let's get them back home again. And getting that significance, that impact, that's all the success you ever need in life,
For people who may be today going through something, like you talked about that moment when you were sitting in your church parking lot and not sure what was going to happen next, what is your advice?
You are the only one that will change your life. You are it. You can't turn to someone else. You can't rely. I mean, of course, you have your spiritual, everybody has. But you have to make the choice, and you have to do it. And you have to quit blaming my ex-husband ruined my credit, my ex-wife, and going down this list. You make the impact. It's easier than you think. Don't overthink it. And the biggest thing, it's going to literally change the way you build your financial legacy, something to pass on in life.
Congratulations, because you've built up something really cool with Color My Credit, and I see that you're doing a ton of speaking engagements.
Trying.
And so you're making your own dreams happen. You have something coming up real quick. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is huge, and please, I would love to see you there. We have a Color My Credit Expo that's coming to the Tempe Improv October 1st. You can buy tickets still online. I know there's not a whole lot of tickets left, and it's the only place you'll be able to purchase the book, the Color My Credit book, which has the best tips and tricks there is at that event until we actually publish it next year.
Oh, so it's
only time to get it.
So you're in the process of publishing the book.
Yeah.
So people who aren't in Arizona can't show up. They can go online, check it out, and then get the book. You promise that it's pretty easy, though. Huh?
Oh, I promise.
Because I don't want to see like 700 pages that I got to go through.
This isn't that for dummies stuff where we're like, that's a lot of writing still. This is visual pictures. This is colorful. I just use every tactic I can to try to get to people in a fun, smart, creative, artsy way, something that's different. We got to do things different.
You're all about like empowering yourself
and
being smart about it. Listen, thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Having you on the show. You are, even though you're not in comedy, you are a hilarious kind of girl. I love hanging around people like you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and for watching us here today. You can see the show on my Facebook page at Carey Pena or on our site, inspiredmedia360.com, and be sure to subscribe so you stay in touch with us, in the loop, and we always love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much. Today's show produced and engineered by Shannon Hernandez, brought to you by Inspired Media 360. Until next time, stay inspired.